After missing a piece of the dramatic draw against Galatasaray in the UEFA Champions League, Marcus Rashford will be back in the squad that will travel to the St James Park to take on Newcastle in the English Premier League on Saturday. Question is, where will he play? Welcome to the hotspot. My name is Webb, and here I am to try to understand where exactly our top scorer from the previous season and arguably our most out of form player will be fitting in the English Premier League big game against Newcastle. Now, without a doubt, we know that Erik Ten Hag has been struggling to make decisions when it comes to Marcus Rashford. I think for the longest time, many of us have felt like Rashford should have been benched. I think from as way back as the game we played against which team? I think even the Carabao Cup, way back, Newcastle. I think people have been calling for Marcus Rashford to be benched, but somehow Erik Ten Hag will not bench him unless a red card forces him out. Now, we are in a situation where now he's back, but the players he's competing with are flying high and he's struggling. He can only afford to score a penalty awarded or offered to him by the captain Bruno Fernandes because of being a captain and being trying to be generous, helping him rediscover his confidence. Because when you score a goal as a striker, your confidence returns because that's what you do, that's what you love to do. Now, in the situation that Marcus Rashford is in, the question is, how does he convince now anyone that he should start ahead of Anthony Dos Santos and Alejandro Garnacho? Because look at the games for Garnacho. I don't even need to explain. This is a boy who has scored in the last two consecutive games, scoring beautiful goals, differently beautiful goals. Arguably the best goal in the history of the English Premier League, that's a bicycle kick against Everton, but also a beautiful goal he scored against Galatasaray, our first in the Champions League. Now, against a team that beat us at Old Trafford. So for a young player like him, it is confidence boosted. So for Erik Ten Hag, I think it would be a shocker for him to rest him against a team like Newcastle. And I know we can talk about the rotation, and this is what you want as a manager, to have so many players fit and be faced with such a challenge, a selection challenge, because again, we know what happens when so many players are injured. Now, I think for me, Erik Ten Hag would be out of his mind if he did not start Alejandro Garnacho on the left. I think after the Galatasaray game, I think now the debates of whether Garnacho is a starter or an impact substitute, I think have been settled. They are done and dusted. Garnacho can start games and he will impact games even if he starts. So I think for the left department, Marcus Rashford should look elsewhere. That has got a permanent resident there. Now we go, of course, to the number 9, Rasmus Højlund. Most probably will be fit because he was withdrawn in the 58th minute. But in the early team news that we are getting from Man United, it was a precaution to rest him for the game on Saturday. So Højlund, obviously, if he's fit, he should be starting as he does look for his first Premier League goal. Now, the only available slot that Marcus Rashford could try to claim would be on the right wing, where I feel he's not as exciting. And even on the left, because he has scored many goals from there, I would say, okay, that's his favorite position, place. That's where he wants to play from. But we all know that Garnacho, and clearly now we see that Garnacho is better coming off there. But on the right, you have an Anthony Dos Santos, loved by Erik Ten Hag, and beyond the love, he has now justified the trust Erik Ten Hag has shown in him by his performance in the last game against Galatasaray. He played the full 90 minutes. He was involved in 2 goals, the one of Scott McTominay and the one of Facundo Peristri. I believe he was involved in both goals. So meaning he has improved going by the last game. Now, considering that he was out for a while, he was out for a couple of games, he returns and has such a good game. No one is complaining why Peristri, because at the start of the game, when we saw that Anthony was starting ahead of Peristri, I'm one of those who were a little disappointed, and I'm thinking, there goes Ten Hag again, not giving the boy a chance again to start games. But Anthony was arguably one of our better players across the entire game. He was more involved in stuff. He was better. I feel like this is one of his best games in a United jersey since he joined. That was one of his best games. So The Eric Ten Hag we know will obviously not want to bench him then immediately after having such a decent game. He would want to keep him there so that he improves. Now, and for me, I would not have issues with that because Anthony has warranted a start in the next game owing to his performances in Turkey. Now, that for me means that Marcus Rashford is obviously going to be on the bench. And this is something we've been craving for a while. And Rashford being benched is not entirely to say he's not good enough. I think it's also another way of charging him as a player. You've been entitled. You've been feeling entitled for the longest time. Things are not going on well. Other players have stepped up their game. Be benched and understand what it feels to be on the bench. The next training, trust you me, Rashford will be training his feet out. He will be training his lungs out. So my feeling is Eric Ten Hag has now obviously got to make the right decision, which is bench Marcus Rashford so that he will know he's not untouchable, so that he will know that he has got competition as well, just like everyone else. Because at some point in the last season, for example, when he was our best player, scoring almost all our goals, Rashford uh, was the obvious starter. He was untouchable. But in this case, it's not the same. If other players have stepped up their game, Eric Ten Hag has got to trust them and send a message to this player who he trusts so much. We know that, but he's not performing. So for me, and as we go into this game, and I know it's Newcastle, they have got so many injuries as well themselves. They're a beatable side. But as we go into this game, and I know they would need players to run them down, but I believe for me, Eric Ten Hag might want to stick to the front three that started against Galatasaray. That's what I think. Hoyland, Garnacho, and Anthony starting. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's what, for me, that's how impartial I am. When someone puts in the hard yards and they perform, for me, you only reward them with a start. That's the only reward in football. If I'm performing well, I should be on the pitch starting. That's the satisfaction I get. So for me, Anthony should be starting ahead of Marcus Rashford. Rashford should be benched, both because he has nowhere to play. The guys, the other boys have delivered better than him. They have proved themselves, but also for Eric Ten Hag, this is the divine opportunity to make a decision that was long overdue. Bench Marcus Rashford so that you send a message to him that he's not untouchable. That way, he will organize himself, and trust me, he will improve when he returns because obviously we've got so many games to play, haven't we? Rashford is not the type of player you think he should be there in each and every game we play as Manchester United. I don't think he's at that level. So he returns. In the Champions League, he was given a red card, so that's why he didn't play. Now he returns to a squad that has, improving players, and that alone, if Eric Ten Hag does not handle his return well, it could disorganize what we feel, what we think we saw, because one of the biggest issues Eric Ten Hag has had is getting Anthony Dos Santos to play football, and it's beginning to work. So for me, Rashford for now, be benched, send a message, bring him back for the next games in December probably. Hotspot, subscribe. My name is Webb. I'll catch you later, fam.